Hello everybody, this is Laura Susan Johnson and this is Period Pieces. Today is July 5th and now that the hullabaloo over the 4th of July is over with, I am going to dedicate most of July to films and movies about missing children, the abduction of children, and so on and so forth. The first movie I'd like to tackle is what I would consider the one that started it all, for me personally anyway. Adam, the 1983 TV movie that aired on October the 10th, 1983, really did a number on me. I'm not unhappy with it. I'm not angry with it, but at the age of 12 going on 13, I guess it was, I was already a basket case, and I'm writing about that right now in my third book. And I actually appreciate it as a movie. It's such an important movie. It's vitally important in the, say, annals of film and as a part of history in America. Before the movie Adam, before the case of Adam Walsh, there wasn't a whole lot in the way of children's rights. Pedophilia has been around since ages past, probably since the beginning of time. And for a long time in the 1950s and probably in decades prior to that, pedophilia and homosexuality were often confused to be the same thing, which is not so. Before Adam Walsh was abducted in the year 1981, January 27th to be exact, there was another highly publicized case, Eton Pates, who lived in the Soho area of Manhattan, I think it was. And to this day, the young boy has never been, his remains have never been recovered. I do believe they have the right suspect behind bars. They had another suspect, but he didn't, I don't know. For me, personally, he didn't seem to be the right guy. But this other creep that they've picked up and questioned several times, and he just seems to be the one. You know, it's just my opinion, but I just think they finally have the man. And he just looking at him and watching him talk, I really do hope they solve it. I do hope the Pateses get justice after so many years. He was abducted, Eton Pates, that is. He was abducted May 25th, 1979, and it's been just decades of agony for this poor family. And I really hope they finally get the justice that they have been seeking for so many years. As for the Walsh family, after 27 years, I think in 2008, they finally got the justice they were seeking when some evidence came to light that the Fort Lauderdale police foolishly either mishandled or I don't know what happened, but there were some photographs of a man's Cadillac and bloody imprints. Really just, I don't want to use the word creepy because a deceased little boy who'd been brutally murdered, nothing about him should be creepy. But just eerie. stark evidence, stark glaring evidence. It's controversial. It'll always be controversial. There was this other theory that came along about Jeffrey Dahmer having been in the area around the same time the child disappeared, and he might have done it. But Otis Toole, this is a pedophile who was roaming probably the entire southern United States, killing people with his partner. I think they made a movie about this guy, Henry Lee Lucas, I think that's what his name was. Yeah, and they were homosexuals, but they were also pedophiles. Now, let me be clear. This is two different entities. They were homosexuals, but they were also pedophiles. You can be a heterosexual man or woman and be a pedophile at the same time. So let's not mix things up, people. Let's use our brains and understand the difference between entities and identities, and let's not lump everything in together and try to simplify it so that we can go to bed at night and sleep tight. It's not that simple. It's not that black and white. Otis Toole, looking at pictures of him, that's what I would call creepy. As a matter of fact, I would go as far as to say the man looks inbred. He looks like his face is deformed. He just looked really creepy. And then there were other pictures where he smiled and looked almost like a normal human being, where he interacted with people and smiled and, had almost a normal countenance on his face. But, just regular mug shots of him, it just made the hair on the back of my neck stand up. So this movie, the night it aired, I wanted to see it, because even at that age, I had already been trained to watch my siblings and to take care of them. And I'm not trying to bash anybody. I'm certainly not bashing my mother. No matter what I say about any parent of mine, my mother is at no fault for this. So you can guess who I am pointing the finger at without being hateful to him. I was trained to watch my siblings and to keep my eye on him while my parent was out farting around with his friends. He was unemployed except for seasonal work. And when he wasn't employed, he wanted to be with his friends. Honestly, he did not want to be a parent, and he did not want to be bothered with children and what comes with having children, which is responsibility, giving up your social life, and minding the children. My mother worked because my dad didn't want to work. He wanted to fart around. He wanted to work part-time and collect unemployment for the rest of the year. He just didn't want to be a responsible person. He was a slacker in 90s terminology. He just didn't want to be an adult. He wanted to have fun. He wanted good times. And he did some other things that I don't want to talk about here, but, nothing abusive towards me except for the torture, the mental torture that he put me through was inexcusable. And I don't blame my siblings for any of this. I don't blame them. This is entirely on my dad. This is entirely my dad's responsibility. But there was damage done to me, and when I watched the Adam movie, I don't blame the Adam movie, but it wreaked havoc on stuff that was already in my brain. And after that movie aired, I would watch it again and again, convinced in my mind that there was nobody I could trust except myself to take care of my brother. I couldn't even trust my mom and my dad after that point. I just figured they would let him slip out of their sight, and I was the only one. My dad had me convinced so. As a movie, it is absolutely terrifying. There is no violence. There is no murder scene. There is no murder footage. There's no body. There's no decapitated head. There's no bloody water to look through where they found him in the canal. There is nothing of the kind there. It's all implied. It's all talked about over phones, over interviews. It's just horrifying what's unseen and unheard, and the acting by Daniel J. Travanti and JoBeth Williams, who, this is my favorite performance of hers. I mean, I thought she was really great in Poltergeist, which came out about a year before this movie did, and I just thought, this is an actress that nobody could have done better than her in this role. And it also co-stars one of my favorite actresses from the early 80s into the late 80s, 90s. What is his name? Oh God, he was in The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing. He was in the sequel to Adam, which was Adam, His Song Continues. He was in License to Drive, which was a comedy about the two Coreys taking their Cadillac out and joyriding around in it. I'll think of his name. I always want to forget his name. But and he was also in this Flight 90 TV movie about the crash of the Air Florida Flight 90 that crashed into the icy Potomac, and he swam out to encourage the survivors to just don't give up and don't let yourselves freeze to death. Just keep your heads up. And Richard Mazer, yeah, he's one of my favorites. And it had a great cast. It was just so beautifully acted. The grief, the anger, the mourning process, but just the lack of justice, and the horror that comes from knowing that some creep, some disgusting creep, pedophile, pervert, snatched your child while you were a whole 20 feet away. All the kid asked was, can I please stay here and watch the kids play video games? And Reve Walsh said, sure, I'll be a couple aisles away looking at the lamps. Don't go wandering away. You stay right here and watch them. If you're going to go anywhere, come look for me in the lamp department or whatever, don't wander off, and the kid was a good behaved kid. He was raised right. And it kills me. It just kills me. Just so many. It's still happening today. Children are disappearing every day. And the movie pretty much, after Adam is murdered, his parents are so grief-stricken that they go through these terrible cycles of, not cycles, but phases of, should we just divorce? I mean, this is, we don't know what to do. I mean, where's our marriage going from here? We can't even look at each other without thinking about Adam and what kind of horrors he must have lived through before he died. And this is a living nightmare. We feel like we're in hell, and we don't want to. What do we do to forget this? Do we have to split apart just to stop living like this? And by and by, they start to try to piece things together. They get mail from, supporters. I really hope they never got mail from perverted, like, I'm the one that killed your son, and I, really loved it. I mean, oh God, that would be just horrible. You'd have to be super strong, and they are a super strong family. And I don't know, I have a feeling they probably did, but throw it on the burn pile. It's just not worth giving them one lick of attention. You just can't engage people like that. You can't engage them unless they have some kind of incriminating evidence where you can send the cops after them and get some closure. Anyway, after they get the mail and they start to slowly piece their lives together, I don't know if he's a congressman or just a lobbyist or something, but this Jay, who is played by Richard Mazer, he comes around the house and he starts telling John, you can make the difference. You're a father and you've lost a child. You're the one whose voice needs to be heard by the bigwigs in government. And if we're going to change the lives of these kids, if we're going to change the laws that are supposedly, protecting them, there is no FBI database. There is no laws that are really in motion about, protecting them from predators. We have to work, and it's going to be a long, hard slog, uphill, but we're going to do it. If you will help me, we will do this. It's going to take a long time, but it's going to benefit kids in the long run. And it's an engaging, great movie. It's a TV movie, but this isn't Lifetime. This isn't, a women's chick flick Lifetime shit. This is good stuff. This is back in the 80s, the early 80s, when movies from TV were about things that, if you're a family at home and you've got children and you really want to watch important stuff that really is important to life, that's it. I mean, yeah, you can go see E.T., you can go see Poltergeist, that's, there's your escapism. But if you're really concerned and you're sitting at home in front of the small screen, this is the kind of movie that's really worth mentioning. A little bit later on, Reve tells John that she's expecting another baby, and for a long time, they neither one of them really wanted another baby because they thought, oh God, I don't want to go through this again, another child to worry about. But when she announces the news, they're both so overjoyed and so happy. And yet at the same time, they're worried, which is realistic. Is the world going to be safe for this new baby, or are we going to lose this new baby? Is some nutball going to come and grab this new baby? And the baby is born healthy and happy. It's a little girl, and it's wonderful. And they continue the fight. And the sequel, I will review that separately, equally terrifying, but in different ways. And I will also review Amber's story, the story of Amber Hagerman, who was from Arlington, Texas. That was a very sad movie. And The Deep End of the Ocean, which is a fictional movie, but very good movie. So there's a lot of movies that I would like to review that concern missing children. Anyway, if I had one scene I will mention from Adam, 1983, the original Adam movie. The worst scene, and I do mean the worst in the best way, the most horrifying scene. You don't hear anything, but the expressions on Daniel J. Travanti's face He's listening to the recent... police recently had caught a pedophile who had been kidnapping and murdering children. And they had found a large recording, I guess one of those gigantic tapes, you know, what they used to record albums on them. Just big tape reels and little outfits of children's clothing. And John, they asked John, would you recognize Adam's voice if his voice was on this tape? And John was pretty sure. And they played it for John with earphones on, so you didn't have to hear it. But the way John's face would just grimace and he'd start to cry and just squirm. He was so uncomfortable and so traumatized. I mean, just talk about, you know, a soldier that is suffering through this miserable war against pedophiles. Those are the battle scars he has to endure. And it is a war. It is a war that goes on to this day. So, yeah, this movie is horrifying. Just, yeah. So, I saw it back in '83. I've seen it again very recently, within the last 2-3 months. And I still think it's 10 out of 10. It's not 9 out of 10. I can't think of a single flaw. I mean, just because it traumatized me when I first saw it, that's not a reason to give it a bad grade or to take a star off of it. 10 out of 10. So, yeah, I would say that because of the anniversary of Adam Walsh's disappearance, this month I'm going to dedicate it to movies about children being abducted. There's other ones. I know my first name is Steven. I've seen that one and I liked it. And there's lots of them out there. There's ones that I will not be giving good ratings to, and I'll let you know more about that later. Anyway, that's all for now. Adam, 1983, 10 out of 10 stars. Bye for now.